Welcome back to another episode of Motogp podcast. I'm here with Ghost Rider and Jake. How are we doing, boys?
Good,
Good
good.
evening. Good
It's
afternoon.
happy days. So it's the Wednesday after the test in Misano, and everyone is kind of a little bit peaky because of all the new stuff that's going on. And I suppose the equipment that was used, no one has really seen much of it, so it's going to drip and drab out over the next few days. But before we get into it, I just wanted to share something really important. As people remember, Gino Rio was injured in practice session for the Suzuka 8 Hours, and it's really good to hear that he's landed back in the UK, home safe and sound, released from hospital. You know, it was worrying time actually for him, with the head injury. Right, the crash happened right in the area of the track where Kato was killed in the 500 cc's years ago. But look, it's good to see that he's back in the UK, and wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully we'll see him back on the bike and back in the track soon enough. But
Yeah, well said, Mac.
onto the main event of today. Well, we're just finished 2 days of testing in Misano, and a couple of surprises in my view that were around. I suppose first and foremost, we have to talk about Mr. Marquez, and what's your impression of how he did? Let's not talk about the bike or anything. It's just about what we think of his appearance. How do you think why we couldn't physically see him? We could watch the live timing. We could see his sectors. What do you think, boys?
I think he did a hell of a job. I mean, for coming right off, not how long has it been since he's been on a bike? 100 days or something of that nature?
100 days, or yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Ooh.
he wasn't
So
setting
he
the world
goes-
on fire, but look what he's dealing with. So,
Absolutely. Look, I mean, he's an exceptional individual. He's an exceptional rider. You can never take that from number 93. He's, not the biggest fan, not haven't been the biggest Marquez fan, but I'm really starting to warm to him. The last year, the last year or so, but especially in the last couple of months, and what in how he's behaved and how he's held himself and how he's dealt with the media and everything. But one thing he's proven is that he's a proper motorcycle racer, and he loves to ride bikes, and you can see the passion in him. And I tip my hat, respect to him, and I wish him well.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, lads. I won't say I'm not a Marquez fan, because I'm not a Marquez fan, but I am a Marquez fan in the way of, I respect what he has done this year. I actually respect more what he is doing right now. With the whole HRC issue and whatever, it shows real ownership of the problem. Okay, let's get back there. Let's try. Do worry that he'll take it that one step a little bit too far and dive too deep into it. But like, he seems to have re-engaged and reignite the fire in HRC, that he's back. I think Pooch was fucking pissing himself with excitement that he was back. If I'm very honest, do you know what I mean? Dancing
Obvious.
around the pit garage,
He was.
like a little girl, like, delighted that number one is back and able to. It was, it was good to see him back on the bike. But what made me really cautious was after, in between the sessions today, I think, or was it yesterday? I'm not 100% sure. You could see that he had to ice the arm. And like, it's not just put an ice pack on it and rest it. He was dipping the arm into a bucket. Do you know what I mean? A bucket full of ice.
I didn't see that.
So he was submerging the whole arm.
Did you?
So you're like, all right, Joe, and like people in the media blowing it up to say, oh, he's going to come back in Aragon. If he comes back in Aragon, he does. But he said himself, there's a chance, but it's a very, very small chance. Do you know what I mean? And look, I just hope he doesn't feel pushed into riding or racing. He's done today and yesterday, like especially with today finishing top Honda. He's just come back in, established his dominance on the team, and I don't think he needs to do any more than that. And he's like, evaluating the bikes, giving his feedback. Like, he didn't do a bad thing. I think it was in the top 10 today, wasn't it? Or top 13, sorry, 13th overall. So I don't think he did too bad. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose from Marc, then we move into the Honda team, right? They brought the fucking kitchen sink and everything with them. There's not only did they take every single technician from Japan and bring them to, I don't know, did you see it at one stage? There's a picture, right? And the garage is full of Honda shirts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, do you actually have any space to put a tire on the bike there? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they brought everyone with them. And I was just kind of thinking to myself, is this now going to be a case of too many chefs in the kitchen? Do you know what I mean? Rather than, but like, they copied everyone. Do you know what I mean? They copied Ducati, they copied Aprilia. But I'm actually delighted to see it because it actually means they're winning.
Yeah. And I'm happy. Right. You know why I'm happy? Because remember how they were putting out the video that the aero's dangerous, blah, 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 right? And now they copy everybody's aero. Are they going to say, oh, it's dangerous now and should be all taken off and banned? Because they were pushing to have it all banned at one point and saying it was dangerous and all that.
Yeah.
Well, now they can't say that. Now they put it on themselves. They're not going to back off it. It's good. I don't like to see one manufacturer try to hamper another manufacturer. You know what I'm saying? So that made me feel good. And it's good to see another competitive team, or hopefully competitive team.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost like they had a Ducati fairing, an Aprilia fairing, a Yamaha fairing, and their own original Honda fairing, and they were just swapping each one on and to see which created the best effect. Which worked best.
The only fairing they didn't copy was KTM. No comment there, but no, look, it was. I think it was good to see. Look, that I've accused Honda and Yamaha of designing the bike and then bolting aerodynamics to it, but now they seem to be going, okay, do we really need to take this aero thing seriously? And it looks like they are now. I don't think
they're hiring all engineers from Europe, so that might have had an influence to them also.
It will, yeah. Look. Like, I think it was. I think when we would talk about the swing arm in a minute, but I think one of the comments that you put into the thing was like, an hour into testing is where there's no sign of this Calyx thing, right? And the comment that I made back was that there's probably a committee meeting deciding which mechanic is going to fit the swing arm, right? And unfortunately, that's the way Honda is that it has to go through a process of whatever. And Ducati and Aprilia will just say, airlocks are sticking on there, and just up and put some double-sided tape on it just in case, and if it falls off, sure, we'll just print another one. Do you know what I mean? And that mentality, you will never beat that in racing, right? In my view. But I was impressed with them, and I am impressed because it's a big step for Honda to go outside their own engineering team to go to Calyx, cap in hand, realistically in Irish terms, of like begging them, can you please help us with this? And then to go back to an aluminium swing arm, which Honda were one of the ones that pioneered the carbon swing arm, and go back to a company that has no. So now they had to take the aluminium one because Calyx don't do carbon.
Yeah.
They've openly said that they don't.
They said they don't have the machinery to do it. They said they prefer it, but they don't have machinery.
Now they have been quite quiet. Marc and them have been quite quiet about how the Calyx swing arm performed. But Marc did try it today. Bradl was yesterday. Marc was today. But look, I think overall, I will give them a very solid B+ for effort. Do you know what I mean? The Honda team, and what I mean with the development, they do seem to be taking aerodynamics and chassis flex a lot more seriously now, which is good to see.
Maybe Honda was listening to your podcast, because how long have we been saying they should go to
imagine I
For months
imagine
now.
now, I might even get an invite from Honda now. Because I thought for years I was like on the Ferrari blacklist. I was on the Honda blacklist, but you never know. Yamaha lads, so they stole the headlines really today with Quattararo hitting either 295 or 298 kilometers an hour at the end of the straight, matching the current Ducatis and Aprilias. Now, okay, granted, it's the 23 engine, so they're back to Aragon with the 22 engine, right? Because they can't introduce it. So, but you know, at first I was a little bit blown away by what I saw when I was reading it. But what did you think of it when you heard it? What do you think it's gonna do?
Ghost?
The Yamaha. Are you saying what do we think of the Yamaha engine?
Yeah, the new engine. Yeah.
Well, look, my first comment in relation to Yamaha is, where was Cal Crutchlow? I didn't see him there.
It wasn't there.
No, we've seen Bradle, with Honda, we've seen Pirro with Ducati, we've seen Salvadori with Aprilia, and we've seen Pedrosa with KTM. So where is Cal Crutchlow? No, they put up a lot of laps on the bikes between Frankie and Fabio, and they had 3 different types of bikes. Obviously, trying to test the engine, the chassis. I don't know. I mean, to hit the headlines with that top speed, but I wonder, was that more manufactured than anything else, Mac?
I think so.
They did it for one lap.
Mm.
They did that 298 for one lap. I saw that.
So here,
there was no V4. There was no V4 anyway. But look, I kind of expected. I didn't expect to see a V4 there. No, not a clue. Mac was holding out a bit of hope to see 2 exhaust pipes. He kept saying.
I was. Well, look, like it's very funny because people are now turning around. They're like, "Oh, Marmoni has done his magic," and I'm like, Marmoni is only in there like 4 months. He's not going to change an engine to get it to run that good in 4 months. But saying that, right, they're bringing a new chassis to Aragon. So maybe this new chassis is going to allow them to run a little bit more horsepower through it. I don't know. Fabio says the chassis is actually is good, right? The 23 bike. Then when I was looking at it, I was looking at the engine, and I was like, fair play to them, absolutely fair play to them. Top of that, I think. Then I looked at the front of the bike, and on the 23 bike, the front, I'm going to call it the duckbill, at the front of it is gone. And the wings are moved back towards the handlebars a little more. So there's actually no front wing on the very front tip of the bike where the air intake is. And I reckon alone that is removing the drag. And there was someone, I think it was Elliot on the channel, actually said, Joe, that what they should do is drop the front downforce in the front and move it slightly backwards. I think that's what Yamaha was looking at our comments too. So that's Honda and Yamaha. But saying that, look, you know, Yamaha, to go through it, Yamaha concentrated the work between Morbidelli and Fabio, and I thought maybe that's actually the right thing to do, right? Because if they're going to run 6 bikes with them, because they had 3 each, and then they're going to need RNF to run Crutchlow because the garage is full in the works team. So would you give RNF insight into what you're going to do next year so they can bring it to Aprilia?
Good point. It does answer that question, doesn't it?
That was just my thinking of it. I was trying to explain this to a person in the chat during the thing today. It was like, it doesn't make any sense to me for Crutchlow to be run by RNF and RNF to see what they're working on. Like, even with a new engine, they would have been able to look at the read and see the data and all of that. You know what I mean? So you don't want that. So it's, for me, that was one of the things that I thought was quite interesting today.
I was under the impression. Go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah, it's a good point, but what garage was Pedrosa working out of, or what garage was Piro or Salvadori working out of? They were all working out of works garage.
Pedrosa and Binder were doing the KTM testing of the new bike, not Oliveira.
Right.
Because Oliveira's out the door as well.
Yeah. So they're not giving him any inside information.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was under the impression that from what Fabio was talking about, that it's not the Yamaha isn't a new engine; it's an upgrade from the 22 engine. It's just put more horsepower in the 22.
Yeah, well, look, it is a new engine because it's creating more horsepower. Do you know what I mean? It's different from the one that's in it. So it's like the 22.5 engine that Pecco has compared to.
Yeah, but the 22.5 had no interchangeable parts for the 21. I was under the impression that the 23 was just more compression. 22 with more compression.
The 22.5 is the 21 engine with 22 parts.
Right.
Yeah.
But they said none of those three engines, the Ducati, can change a single part.
They can't. No. None of those engines because
they're
21 is 21, 22 is 22, and 22.5. Yeah. 22.5 is 22.
They're saying how much different the three engines were. They were totally different.
Yeah, they are totally different in the way. Like it would be the same base, but then some of the internals are different in the 22.5. But maybe the crank or whatever would be similar to the 21, 22. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I thought that the Yamaha, the 23, is just the 22 pumped up to get more horsepower. If you get my drift, it's not they didn't take a new blueprint.
No, but they're
the new inline 4. You get my
no. It's not a complete new casting or whatever. But from my understanding, there is internal changes within it. But look, personally, that's what I think with Yamaha. I think it's actually more of an aerodynamic advantage that they reduce drag than massively increased horsepower. Could be wrong, but when you see the pictures, which I'll do a special video for each manufacturer during the week, but you will see it.
You are the hardest working guy on YouTube.
Yeah,
but you'll see it. You'll see it if you go online now. You will see the new one. You'll see the difference between the big fucking wing that sticks out the front of the current one and the one that was. And it's actually funny because it actually looks like the wing that he ran in Misano and didn't like, because there's no.
Oh, you mean Mugello?
Mugello, Mugello, Mugello.
Yeah, and they said,
no, and it actually looks like that. So maybe there was some rumor to this new aero thing that gave them 10 miles an hour, but it was only 10 miles an hour to catch up.
Yeah, big headline.
Do you know what I mean? Ducati. What did you think of Ducati? Ducati actually has me stumped at the moment, I will say. But what do you think of Ducati? To see anything?
It's hard. I mean, it's difficult to see what Ducati, what changes they've been making compared to the other factories. But the other point that crossed my mind was, how far did Ducati want to push the boat out in terms of development from where they're at? Like, I mean, you've seen what happened at the beginning of this year, and in the evolution from the 21 to the 22. Like that if Pecco doesn't win the championship this year, then that move will have cost them the championship, because they should have won it. So they've got the best bike in the grid. I think we all agree on that. Even the 21 was the best bike in the grid. The 22, how much of an evolution are they going to make?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
the
mentioned,
last thing they want to do is have way too much, like last year or this year, where they had way too much work to do and way too little time to do it. And it took them 5 races to get it sorted. I mean, how bad were they in those first 5 races? Remember, that's what killed them. The 8 bikes killed them. People think it helped them out, and they said the bikes were so different that they couldn't even transfer data. You know what I mean?
So here's what confuses me, right? A couple of weeks ago, about a week and a bit ago, Pecco said our 23 bike is all going to be a 22 with tweaks. Tweaks was the word here, right?
Yep.
Yesterday he was saying that they had reached the end of the development with the frame because it's been the same frame since 2020, and they've tried every single way of mounting this, that, and the other, and doing it. And if they want to develop it any further, they're going to have to look at developing the frame or developing a new style frame. And I immediately thought, oh, like, it's already a great bike. You've just won 4 races on the bounce. No Ducati rider has ever done that.
Mm-hmm.
Leave the fucking thing alone.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I wonder if they're getting scared of Pecco or Fabio again for next year.
Then I saw this.
They want more horsepower. I bet you they have. Remember the 30 horsepower that the 22 had over the 21.5? They said, right? I wonder if they have another 30 horsepower in their pocket. And you know how Ducati is. I wonder if they want to pull it out.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. They want to obliterate everyone. But Gigi, look, Gigi's no fool either. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure he has a method to his madness. But I suppose for me, one of the things that really confused me is this lever on the clutch. And I know, did you see it in the video from this evening? But if you look at it, there's 2 what look like cables coming out of that box. Now, I personally, and I'm probably wrong, but I personally think it's something to do with launch control and whole shot.
I read it was
maybe like
it was
Formula One. That when there's the initial release of the clutch and then there's the further release of the clutch, just to help. So I wonder, is it something to do with it within that? And it has to be cables because it can't be, electronically done. So I just think, like, that's confusing me at the moment. It's actually really annoying me because I can't figure out what it is. And but it just shows Gigi as well. Like, he's always looking. Huh?
I read in GP1 that was the launch device. I think it was GP1 had that was the launch device. So that's why I think you're right.
Was it GP1? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but just looking at it, I was just like, that's obviously. I do.
You have the photos of the device. I mean, I've seen it featured in the video, so well done on that. But, like, really, when it comes to whole shot, when it comes to, the rear and the front ride height devices, like, Ducati have been pioneering the way with this. And you could argue that their bike is the quickest away as it is on the grid now. So it's true that the front ride height device is going to be banned for next year, isn't it?
Yeah.
The auto front ride height device, yeah.
Oh, the auto front. So
it's only when in the corners. On the whole shot, it'll still be there for the start, yes. But it can't when their actual bike is in motion drop. Does that make sense? Coming out of a corner, it can drop.
Yeah. Okay, so they can use it for the start.
Yep.
Okay, so when you say whole shot device, are you talking about the technology that allows them to wind it back fully and release the clutch?
Yeah, but I think what's happening there is that when they have that wound back fully, instead of the electronics killing the bike, it's actually, there's going to be like a first release of the clutch, and then there's going to be a second release of the clutch once you're going. This happens in Formula One. I don't know. Have you ever seen it? It's like, so it's like
traction control.
It's like a traction control, but it's just like phase 1, phase 2 of the start, and it's just all about getting maximum traction down. So that's personally what I think it is. I could be completely wrong. Do you know what I mean? Gigi is a very smart man, and he has it, well hidden. Now look, there is still pipes hanging off the clutch lever as well. Now that could be just Gigi leaving them there to fool everyone as well, but I don't know. Look, I think it's quite interesting. Ducati are definitely stealing a March. I did see a lot of duct tape around the frame, lads. I have some pictures of it as well, and we'll share. So they are working on the frame. I'm just like, leave it alone. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. The bike is a winner. Do you know what I mean? If you want to add a few more horsepower, do, and let's see what happens to the frame. If the frame can take it, great. Yeah. But I do think the frame probably can't take it.
Yeah.
Aprilia.
They're not going to leave it alone, though, before you move on.
They won't,
Ducati. They're
no.
not going to leave it alone. They're going to constantly be developing and
Well, look,
developing and moving forward.
I suppose, look, that's engineering 101. Do you know what I mean? You'll never find perfection, you know. But Aprilia, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, it looked impressive, man. From the very beginning, it looked like Aprilia were right up there. Maverick more so than the captain. But yeah, I mean,
Captain fell and broke his finger today.
Yeah. I seen that featured on. I think it was Patterson that had it out there on Twitter earlier. Yeah, pictures of it.
Fell and broke his finger. Poor fella. You know, but look, I think I don't think they had too much to test, as in massive stuff to test. I did notice that the fairing along the side was a little bit elongated, so that they are looking at the ground effect a little bit more. They are. Crayfar did announce about a frame that Maverick was using, and he was saying that he was using it this weekend, and the only difference was that it was lighter.
Yeah.
But that's actually not 100% accurate, because I know for a fact Maverick has been using that frame for the past 2 races. And Aleix actually tried it on Saturday in Misano and liked it. Now, I don't know, did he like it because Maverick's going faster than him on it, right? Or did he actually like it, right? You know what I mean? Is it more of a head game? But I think, you know, they actually did something really good. So they didn't try too much, or they didn't make, like, Aprilia are doing what I wish Ducati would. Aprilia are just being sensible. Small tweaks, bite sizes. You know, we have a great bike. We know we have a great bike. We have 2 good pilots. Can't believe I said that about Maverick. Do you know what I mean? After the year he's had, but you know, they've 2 good pilots on it.
Yeah, and I was a big doubter on that. Remember?
Yeah. But saying that, you know, they're doing it in the right way. They're making small, consistent little changes. Okay, let's save a couple of kilos here without changing the rigidity of the frame or the stiffness or the flex in the frame. And they're doing it really well. But I did expect them to be there. Do you know what I mean? So it was day 5 realistically going around Misano. So if things hadn't really changed much, I did expect them towards the top of the field. But overall, I think, you know, I've always been a fan of Aprilia because I have Aprilia motorbikes myself, right? But
you could not be from the old 2-stroke RS era. You could not be a fan of the company.
Their
brand
CEO right now, your man Ravola. The minute I saw Alex crash in Silverstone, I instantly gained massive respect for that team by the way he spoke after. He's like, I don't really want Alex to go out if Alex is not okay. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You know, no pressure, more concerned about the rider than saying, he'll get back on again, he'd be grand. Do you know what I mean?
Like Pooch would have done.
Exactly, yeah. Push him out the door and say, we need you.
Yeah.
You know,
I got something to say on that one too, with Poog and between Poog and Marquez.
But it's just like, no, look, I just gained an awful lot of respect, and he's like, listen, look, he doesn't need to go out today. If at worst he starts 12th tomorrow, and he can do what he can do tomorrow, and he can rest up today. Do you know what I mean? Totally left it to the rider to decide, and I think that's the way it should be done. So I was really, really impressed with him. Gained an awful lot of respect for him.
Yeah, but
also showed
El Capitino hasn't been too impressive since then.
No, I think that scared him.
I think that crashed back to his old position, his old comfort zone.
Yeah, look, I think there's 2 things, right? I think one, he's still probably in shock of what happened in Silverstone, right? I think that's probably one of the scariest moments that the boy has had personally, because he had no warning that was right. And in fairness, it was a Marquez in it was a Mandalinka crash.
Yeah. Similar height size.
You know, probably worse, you know. So definitely knocked the stuffing and knocked an awful lot of confidence out of him.
And it broke his ankle.
But saying that, he broke his heel. His heel. His heel. Yeah. But saying that, there's also the pressure, lads. You know, Pecco in metronomic form, right?
Yeah.
closing that gap, hunting you. And that's all Pecco was doing. But Pecco had no pressure. Like Pecco was interviewed. He's like, I'm not even going to think about the championship or putting pressure on Fabio until I get within 10 points. If I get within 10 points, we'll talk championship.
Yeah. He still says, I got 30 points. It's a long way. You know?
Well, he's got to maintain that mindset, but the pressure is on him now, guys. You can't deny the pressure.
It's starting to come in now, right? Which is fine. Do you know what I mean? But let's go back. I think he was 66 points behind. You know, he's half the gap in 3 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
He's half it. Do you know what I mean? And there's 6 to go. He's 30 points behind. If he wins every single race, he wins the championship, no matter what Fabio does.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fabio, I just saw that the crew chief for Yamaha was very surprised when they were talking about the new chassis, and he goes, "There's some good points about it and some bad points about it." I was really surprised for him to say there's bad points about the new chassis, especially since he's getting all the praise. You know?
Yeah, well,
I was happy to see it had a new chassis.
I would say that too, to put people off as well. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, of course. Never show your head. Oh, yes, it's good in some corners, it's bad in others, but we will fix it. It'll be fine. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way they'll do it. Talking of race engineers, actually, here's just some useless information for you. So the Beast, engineer, was Davi's Ducati engineer, right, for his championship runs and whatever. He is now leaving at the end of the year to go to KTM.
Right.
Poor bastard.
Yeah. Big paycheck. Big paycheck. I'd stay away from that.
Yeah. So the Beast is going to actually get a brand new race engineer. So this could actually set him back, because the Beast doesn't know how to set up a bike. It's your man knows the Ducati so well.
Yeah.
He is able to give it the thing, and he's able to interpret the difference between last year and this year.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I think there's going to be, for the Beast, I think there's going to be a little bit of a change moving into that team. But we'll talk about him maybe next week's podcast. So we talked about KTM.
Yeah, I have to before you start. I have to pull you up on a reference you made there in the review video today of day 2. Yeah, where you were talking about the old Red Bull and the new Red Bull.
I put text up to cover my ass. Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's been a long day, cool, lads. I've been sitting in front of this computer since 8 a.m.
Just visualizing a real bull out in the field. as I was listening to it.
But you know what was going through my mind all while I was shooting that video was that the picture that I put up of the new KTM, if you look at it at the side-on picture, all I could think with the way the exhaust is that it looks like a wheelbarrow.
Oh, it's desperate. It's desperate. I can't stand it.
Just go back though and have a look at the way the rear exhaust comes out, comes up, and goes in. And then look at a wheelbarrow. That whole view, and I was just like, "Oh my God Almighty!"
That's the same exhaust system that Ducati got rid of early this year. Remember, they call it the Ballingong exhaust, and they said it made it real erratic. The power band real erratic. So
what's the secret behind that, Jake? The way that pipe works.
I have no idea. That's out of left field, because they're supposed to be balanced. The trick of exhaust is to have the power balanced and the volume balanced in the chambers. You know what I mean? So when one goes one direction and one goes to the other direction, even though it looks different, they're supposed to have the same volume in there. Even if you have one cylinder firing differently than the other, it's supposed to balance it out. So I don't know how that's going to balance when it's 6 foot long. You know what I'm saying? And
but it's like, it's
change
just
the diameter. You know what I mean? The force to be the same. It's very tricky.
That's what she said. Yes, change the diameter for the force to be the same.
I might not touch the bottom, but I sure stretch the sides. Yeah,
that's it. But Yeah, I just don't know KTM. Like they have massive potential, and yes, Red Bull are going to come in and help them with aerodynamics, and it sure looks like that is happening. But I just don't know. I just don't. Like I would just love for a season if they put on a set of Olands and let's see where they go.
Well, you made that
So,
point. You made that point. I don't know, was it one of the previous podcasts or whatever? It was in one of the group discussions. But you made that point a good while back, a number of months back, and it's stuck in my mind as I've been watching them. That it's a very, very good point. That like Honda, they have their own brake company, they have their own suspension company, but they're running Olands and they're running Brembo because everybody else is on Olands and everyone else is on Brembo. So if you think about the Michelin tire, the control tire, the whole bike is designed around that tire. Everybody else has the same suspension and the same brakes. For some crazy reason, the KTM are still running that steel trellis frame.
Yeah,
they're using their own suspension and their own brakes. And as you said, Mac, if they change those, they would be at the level of the competition. Like
in suspension and brakes,
yeah. Like here's my solution: go to Calex, get them to build a frame and a swing arm, switch to Olands, put on the Brembo brakes, and then build the aero.
Yeah.
Because Ducati used to run FTR chassis. When they moved off from the carbon box and Rossi came in, FTR in the UK used to build their frame and their figure. And I just think it's just like I would love to see KTM up there. Like I don't care whether they actually run a trellis chassis. Joe, I mean, I don't, and I don't think anyone out there they could fucking paint it on. You know what I mean? That's my view of it. Do you know what I mean? I'll sell my soul to. And maybe
about a beauty contest. You know what I mean? The steel trellis looks neat, but that's about it.
Maybe this is just a racer thing in me, but like I'll sell my soul to win the race. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's that. And,
there's no shame in it. Going elsewhere.
Well, no,
but it's like the time before the control tire when you had Michelin competing against Bridgestone, and Stoner was running away with it. He was on Ducati. Rossi was on Yamaha, and what did Rossi do? He switched to Bridgestone.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
What the difference was? Yeah. I just think because I would dearly love to see KTM up there because I do believe that
they make great engines.
They do. They do. They killer engines.
They always think.
And I just pull you up on your point. I just pull you up on your point there now as well, Ghost. Just about like everyone else is using Olin suspension and Brembo brakes. Yeah. Just like a note to Yamaha, everyone else is using V4s.
There's a reason all of other motorsports have went and ditched the inline engines 30 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
V4 has better balance, it has better secondary balance. You don't have that long crank which gets flexy, which beats up the bottom end bearings, which Yamaha is sweating because it happened to Suzuki. Suzuki put the power in, and they blew 3 engines right off the bat. They had to turn the power back down again. Now is Yamaha going to be able to keep that power up?
Well, I actually think with the Rins in Mandalinka when he had the fire, that was actually his ride height, or his.
No, that blew an engine. Blew that thing. The sides went boom in the fairing. It just literally blew out the sides. You were like,
I thought it was Mandalika that it was actually the ride height who actually caught fire. The hydraulic oil in the ride height.
And the next race or the next race after that, they lost 2 more engines. Remember, both riders had to run their second bike.
Yeah.
But I know.
Go on, yeah. Sorry.
I just think this test has just been a massive actual focus on aerodynamics, which I didn't actually think. And Honda and Yamaha have now started to buy into the importance of aerodynamics.
Okay.
Go on. Yeah.
One thing we've glanced over, I just found out about on Motogp.com. Honda, what was up with Honda running a 2021 bike in a test also?
Don't know.
What
Maybe that's the benchmark that they have.
Well,
Yeah,
that
we're
was
going to
the
go back to
remember
that.
that chassis was made for a front bias tire.
Yes. Yes,
So I
that's
don't know
right.
what's going on. They said they want to have a balance between the two. I think
Yeah.
are they still lost? What are they doing with the chassis?
Listen, 2 days of testing, they're going to find out jack shit, and especially because every time they went out, that bike was different. But what they did do is that they tested a massive amount of parts, which we said that they were going to do, and they did. Do you know what I mean? They tested the rear swing arm, they tested the Aprilia type front wing. They tested the Ducati type downshoots. They tested the Aprilia type down or side hammerhead side pads. You know, the rear of the bike was slightly different. It actually looks like, I have a picture, by the way. The Honda, the back of the Honda looked like the Aprilia at one stage. Do you know what I mean? They were testing absolutely everything aerodynamically and chassis wise. So with the swing arm. I genuinely believe, now this is one of the things I was only thinking, there's a couple of pictures of Bradle on day one. And the other way you can normally see the weave of the carbon. When I was looking at the swing arm, it was just matte black. Do you know what I mean? So I was thinking to myself, did they put covers over the Calyx swing arm? Do you know what I mean? So that people couldn't see how...
They might have, but then
I think they had
running the aluminium,
and then they were seen running the aluminium later. You know what I mean? Later in the day, but this was early in the morning. But look, I think massively that the all manufacturers now, like Ducati, were testing small fairings, small fairing aerodynamic updates. Aprilia were small aerodynamic updates. KTM were massive. Yamaha, there was a big change. Honda, there was the front wings, there was the air intake, there was the side fairings, there was the rear of it. Do you know what I mean? They're hunting which is the aerodynamic or which feels good for the riders. None of it was given to Paulus Macro. Also.
Like the redheaded stepchild.
It's just
now that you mention him, right? It's what Jake touched on there in relation to the 21 bike. He was the one that really pioneered that or led that switch, that development from the front bias back to the rear bias. He spoke a lot about getting it to suit his riding style and the rear brake as well. Remember, that was another thing that he wanted to use. But that was the big change that was made without Marquez. So if they have the 21 bike there as a reference point, they're going back to the point before Espargaro got involved and where they made the changes and ultimately led them to where they are now, which means they've gone wrong or got lost.
Yeah, I think, that bike was there because when I initially saw it in the background, I was like, oh, is that another front wing that they're going to be running? But it was actually, I was like, no, that wing looks actually familiar. So look, I think they were just maybe using it as a reference. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's grand to say, I remember in 2021, that's what it used to feel like. Whereas if I go out and do one lap on the 22, one lap on the 23, and one lap on the 21, now I can give you same day, same time, same temperature feedback. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they'll have all the data.
Yeah.
And they have all the data.
That they weren't trying to make a front bias chassis adapt to the rear bias Michelin.
So a couple of things that I was looking at was more so actually the ground effect side fairings that they had, right? And what it looked like to me was that with the ground effect one is they could actually get more heat out of the engine and out of the bike. Because remember, when they first did that bike, they only had two small gills at the side of the bike to release the air. And what was actually happening then was actually all the hot air was coming straight out the back of the bike onto the tire.
Get burned.
That was another one, and it was conditions in the thing. But what I was doing was when it wasn't hitting the rider's feet or heating up the thing, it was actually overheating the rear tire. So they're starting, and I think that's where they could be working on, especially with this Calyx swing arm as well. It may give them a little bit more flex, so that the tire does start to go off. Like, see Redding, when Redding started to use it in the BMW, my God, the shapes that he was able to make with that bike. You know, as soon as the tire go off, yes, it would step out, but it would step out in a controlled way rather than the rigid stiff way. And it's a massive difference. So I do think there's some credibility to Honda. And look, as I say, I'll give them a solid B+ for their efforts. You know what I mean? They have, in my view, embraced the aerodynamics. You know, Marquez is in there now, and I do actually think Marquez is dictating a small bit of what the future is going to be. And it's kind of like, well, Alberto, you need to listen now. Do you know what I mean? And you smile, nod, and agree with what I say, and we'll get out of this. That's what I think.
I want to bring up, by the way, again.
Yeah, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Just another question. It's a little bit off topic, but I seen in the photos a couple of pictures of Marquez's father there at the in the garage. I mean, does that guy have no job, or what's he doing? He's there.
He's never had a job. He's been there since.
So if your son earned 25 million a year, I'm sure he'd make sure that you're taken care of every year. Do you know what I mean?
He'd need a couple of
well, if he didn't, like, it'd be a kick in the fucking balls. We get a Josephine. But no, I think his like, while he has PAs and all this, I do think his father is involved in some way. Just kind of probably actually more so. He's probably the one that can get through to him. Do you know what I mean? So I think he's actually more there to rein him in a small bit. Do you know what I mean?
If he reined him in, he would have told him to switch over to Ducati back in 2019 and went the safer route.
Oh, lads, I actually have a picture of Marc Marquez superimposed onto a Ducati.
Yeah.
I
want to say something. Well, listen, you're talking about Espargaro and how the Aprilia team were, appreciative of his work and didn't want to get him hurt. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you notice that when Marquez did that fast lap, this 1:31.6, okay, I happened to notice he went into the pits, quickly came back out, did 3 laps, did that fast lap, and went back in again, which tells you he went out on softies, right? And he was doing a bonsai lap, as you call it, Mac.
Yeah.
Now, you got a guy that's just coming back. He's just healing, right? Why send him out to do bonsai laps? You think Poog would say, listen, we'll just send somebody out for the headline laps.
Who are they going to send out?
Anybody, but the guy is just coming back from 100 days off of the bike. If you cared about the rider, you wouldn't risk him out that, I
personally don't think that there's one of them that could do a bonsai lap and beat Marquez personally.
Yeah, but I wouldn't send him out to do it.
Yeah, look, it's just pooch being pooch, like, you know what I mean? It's just
I don't know if it's his decision or Marquez's decision, but when he goes out for 3 laps and comes back, it tells you he was running qualifying times.
Well, I wouldn't take any notice of the amount of laps, because he was doing between 3 and 5 laps per segment. Yesterday, he was doing 6 lap segments. Or stints. So I wouldn't necessarily. Yeah, he definitely did a flyer. But I think, look, I think there is no one else could do that. By the way, that's my WhatsApp, just showing you a picture of Marc Marquez superimposed onto a Ducati.
Yeah, cool.
Just so that you have it. You know, I broke the news first, if anyone ever asks you.
Yeah.
It's on the way to you there now, Ghost, as well. Yeah. Mystic Mac again, his prediction: if Honda don't get it right, he's gone to Ducati.
Hey, you called Bagnaia how long ago? And I thought you were nuts. He's going to make a comeback. I'm like, yeah, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I look, these things, like, But like it was perfect for Pecco.
He'd look
66
great.
points behind.
He'd look
Yeah,
great. He'd look great on a Ducati.
Yeah, and
Number
just for everyone watching, I have a video of Marc Marquez coming up, so I promise I'll put this at the last picture of it, so that you have to watch the whole video if you want to see it. But like again, it was just that whole mentality. Everyone was like, and even I was like, when he first went off and it was 66 points, I was like, game over. Showed me can't see Fabio dropping that. And then I was like, you know something? Actually, when I thought about it a couple of days after I shot that video, I was like, actually, this is brilliant. Now he has no pressure. Now you can just go ride your bike. Do you know what I mean? And boom, 4 wins in a row, 100 points out of 100 available. Do you know what I mean? You're probably crashing Aragon now because I just jinxed him. But sorry about that, Pecco, if you're watching. And Fabio, if you're watching, you can thank me later.
Fabio, remember I said he never crashes. Then it's the only crash he had in 2 years.
Yeah, but look, I just think this test has been amazing. Really good to see. While I don't fully agree with, like, I'll be honest, KTM's kind of aerodynamic devices that they're putting on the wheelbarrow. You know, anyway. It's good to see people taking it seriously. That so Honda have moved from bolted on to actually start thinking about it. Yamaha, maybe they were doing a bit of a glory run, but look, I think it's been really interesting. But look, there's lots and lots and lots that will come to light over the coming days, I'm sure. So. Yeah, I suppose that's about it for this week. Have anything you want to go through, lads, or anything you want to mention, say, congratulate, commiserate?
I just feel sorry for the Suzuki engineers since Honda says they're going on with all Euro engineers now. Remember we thought they were going to switch over, which kind of makes sense, but they said no, they're going to go all European engineers.
That's fair.
Ghost, didn't you think I took it away this way? Didn't it look like the Aprilia added a little power? I don't know where they got it from. I mean, you couldn't see a power upgrade, of course, on the bike, but it just seemed like they were running very fast in that test. Their top speed.
It's like I said earlier on, they came out of gates flying.
Yeah,
and they look good. Like even that bike that Lorenzo was riding, it's a totally different shape. Even a paint job on it. Most of them are riding just black. The black prototype livery, no livery, but like his had a different paint job. The way the Aprilia was done on it, they're a different level, man. They're a different level.
Yeah.
Like,
it looked like they made a little jump though in power. It seemed like their top speed was right, and it wasn't doing like they weren't doing like Yamaha was like doing, say, 285, all the time, and then they blipped up one when they went out for that with less aero and bopped up to a 295. They did or 298. They did one lap. I think they 298, and then went back.
I think though they all did proper testing. Do you know what I mean? This is the first time in a long time. Like for me, Aprilia took the package that they had and they tried a lot of variations. Maybe adding horsepower this lap, reducing aero. Do you know what I mean? Adding aero, reducing horsepower. Do you know what I mean? Then equaling. So I think that's what Aprilia did this time, because you could see for a lot of it they were up front. Then maybe at lunchtime, after lunch, they didn't jump ahead like they did. Now, the only thing I would notice today was that a lot of teams or a lot of riders didn't practice after lunch today. There was a lot.
That's normal enough, isn't it?
Well, it just gives Jake a kick in the balls from what he's saying about testing, because they wasted 4 hours of track time.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you have so little, you might as well go out there.
Yeah, but the thing is, guys, you turn up with whatever you have, you test as much as you can, all the different variables. At a certain point, you've done it. You have to now get back to the workshop and start to make whatever.
I don't know, because every time that engine starts, you're gathering data, and these guys need data upon data upon data, so they'll never actually have enough data.
But also at this point, do they want to take? I was surprised they did as many fast laps as they did. I didn't think Fabio and Bagnaia would do so many fast laps just for the risk of crashing when they're so late in the season.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I would thought that they would do general testing and say, okay, later on we'll do that, see what we think is going to work, and then we'll really push it later. Because right now we're in the middle. The last thing we can afford is somebody with a broken finger or a broken.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
but look at all the
Yamaha.
rubber.
What?
Look at all the rubber that's laid down on the track. Like, the conditions must be impeccable, like way better than at any stage over the race weekend.
Oh yeah.
So they're comfortable. They're able to dial it in, and they're able to go a lot faster because the grip is there.
It all got washed off because remember it rained, and then they had qualifying right before. Yeah. It just had rained the night before, the downpours. But when you're talking about aerodynamics in Yamaha, wasn't it odd that they took aero off, and when they put it on, they either increased it from what they normally had or decreased it from whatever they had.
Yeah.
They had like a new aero package which had more aero, or another package where they had no aero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or less aero.
Yeah.
I think Yamaha are in the same bed with Honda. Yamaha may be a bit behind, but they're starting to understand the
importance of aero. Yeah.
The importance of it. Yeah. That's just my.
The one thing that strikes me when you compare Yamaha to Aprilia or Honda to Ducati or whatever, just the Japanese to the Europeans, and if you look at the way Aprilia works, you spoke about their methodical approach and how they're progressing the whole time, and it's like they're constantly working. And Maverick says it, Aleix says it. Everything Maverick said that he's asked them for, they've done it. So they're constantly going back, making the changes, developing it. It's like the passion and the determination there it's constant. It's constant. Where with the Japanese, it's like you have a team back in Asia who are in Japan. They build what they think is a world class bike. They send it to Europe. The team have to run it. It's almost like as if Japan wants to send it over and says, look, we've given them the goods. They've got a world class bike, and that's it. There's no constant refinement or the same passion behind
pursuit of perfection. Let's call it, lads.
Yeah.
Honda has the weakest engineering department in Motogp, and the Japanese have even Yamaha's weaker than the Europeans. The Europeans have really taken a jump up in the strength of their engineering departments.
Yeah.
In comparison, the Japanese were never known for being strong in engineering, right? They were always known for copying things. You go into F1, you don't see Japanese engineers. You see European engineers. They're all out of Blakely in the UK with Germans in there and
Blakely. Yeah.
Well, as long as I've been following the sport of MotoGP, the Japanese have been the top dogs.
They were the only dogs for how many years?
Yeah. Well, look, I think
they always look good. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah. Who's the prettiest dog when you're the only dog? So look, lads. I think I think it's been a really fruitful test, and as more pictures come out, I'm sure I'll have you plagued on WhatsApp with look at this. Look, for me, I actually think I actually haven't been more excited about MotoGP in a while since seeing this test show, knowing what's coming next year. And I think I might, we'll talk about this in the next podcast, but I think I might have my old wish of having an old rivalry as well next year.
There's lots to talk about, Mac. And, look, it goes without saying, despite what's going on, with MotoGP and what they're saying about, the popularity of the sport or whatever, regardless, outside of all of that, it's definitely a golden era for the sport.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the good old days. They said, this is the good old days.
Oh, this is as good as it gets, guys.
Well, look, I still miss the old smell of two-stroke.
I know you do.
But saying that, like, listen, and I'll challenge. I will challenge
we're
anyone.
We're going to call him Grandpa Mac pretty soon. You know what I mean?
I will challenge. I will challenge anyone to say, last Sunday's race, the last lap, for me, that was going back to Rossi versus Stoner, Rossi versus Lorenzo. Probably some of the best overtakes in racing that we ever saw in any modern era, right? And I think next year, Joe, the Beasts versus Pecco on equal machinery, that will sour very, very quickly. I also think Maverick and Alicia Spagro will start to sour very, very quickly. Once Maverick starts consistently beating him, he'll get emotional. And so I do think coming up, we're going to have a lot of inter-teammate battles. Morbidelli, or Fabio was safe. Morbidelli will,
Yeah, he's going to get
he's grand. I think Mir.
It's an awful shame. An awful shame with Morbidelli.
I think Mir and Marquez. I think Mir and Marquez. I think they could either get on great or it could just go brutal. I think the only safe ones next year are Zarco, or Fabio and Morbidelli, Zarco and what's his name? Zarco and Martin. And the two VR46 guys. I think they're the only ones that are going to be safe from fighting with each other bitterly next year. So I think, look, we've got a lot of good on track battles to happen, but we'll go through that in the next podcast. But as for the test, I was delighted with what I saw. Do you know what I mean? Next year is going to be 23 is already looking good bike wise. And I think we'll wrap it up there for this week, lads.
Yeah, and listen, before we wrap up, I want to congratulate Mac on hitting his a major milestone of 1 million views on the channel. And thanks for all your hard work that you've put in, Mac.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Thanks, Bill. Really appreciate it. And look, I love doing it. I absolutely love talking about MotoGP, and these podcasts could go on for 2 or 3 hours, except I'd be shot at home. But
we're better.
I'm surprised you're getting away with what you're getting away with.
I know.
I know. I
keep expecting to see the channel down or see the Mac go absent without leave.
That's it. Or a shoe fly across some podcast and into the side of the head, be like, that's like they're going. But no, look, it's. I think it is a major milestone. 1 million views. We had 4,000 subscribers today as well. So everything is going great. And delighted for everyone. And look, happy out making the content as long as people are happy to be listening to it. So long may it continue. And my goal is 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. So I'll keep pushing for that.
Do that easy.
Yeah.
It hasn't been easy the last 249 days. Not like I've been counting. Yeah, but that's it. So look, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a million, guys. And we'll no doubt speak again next week.
Sure. Take care, guys.
Peace out. Been a good one. I just want to take a minute to also thank you for watching my videos and the support that you've shown so far. If you haven't subscribed already and you would like to subscribe, it would mean an awful lot to me if you did. I'm starting this channel realistically so that we can all enjoy MotoGP together, with the aim of streaming a live video when the GP races are on.